Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the August 6, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is a determination of quorum, and we have that. The next item is public comments. I believe that we did have somebody sign up, and we have a handout regarding Laurel Stone Development Project, but my understanding is that person doesn't necessarily wish to speak tonight, and we'll be discussing that with the planning department in the morning.
Yes, sir. She didn't actually sign up. She came to the meeting tonight. We told her we would pass out the material she provided to the planning commission members, and I gave her my contact information for her to contact me in the morning to discuss it in greater detail.
Right. Thank you, Matthew. The next item on the agenda is to approve minutes of the July 9th, 2025 and July 16th, 2025 Planning Commission meetings. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. Next item on the agenda is the public hearings and recommendations to council. We have 5 or 6 on the agenda. Before we start this section, I just want to remind people in the crowd that you will have an opportunity to speak for or against any or all applications on here. We would ask that you would address your comments to the Planning Commission. At the end of the public hearing in question, we will answer or try to answer all of your questions associated with that application. We would ask that you would limit your comments to 3 minutes if you're speaking for yourself. If you are speaking on behalf of, say, a homeowners association or a neighborhood alliance, we will allow you 5 minutes. With that, Mr. Barbie, let me put on record what we're talking about. The first item on the agenda in public hearings is annexation petition and plan of services for approximately 2.42 acres located along John Rice Boulevard and Spike Trail. Clarissa Smith is the applicant. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon, Chairman Halliburton and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. This first application before you today is a annexation petition, plan of services for approximately 2.42 acres located along John R. Rice Boulevard and Spike Trail. Request is made by Ms. Clarissa Smith. The property is located along John R. Rice Boulevard, directly across from Ford of Murfreesboro and Nelson Mazda. They are both located across John R. Rice Boulevard to the north. There's a daycare located directly to the west of the property. To the east of the property, you have another parcel of land that is currently developed as Honda of Murfreesboro. The properties to the south and southeast are outside the city limits and the unincorporated areas of Rutherford County, and they are currently zoned residential medium density in that area. The shaded area before you is where the requested area is. It is a portion of a larger parcel of land and includes one barn that is used for bus maintenance and transportation services. The areas outside of the shaded area will not be included as a part of this request and are developed as single-family detached dwellings. Staff has reviewed the application, consulted with other applicable city departments. We are in favor of the request for the annexation for the following reasons. The subject property is contiguous with the existing city limits. It is within both the urban growth boundary and the service infill line, and services can be extended to the subject property immediately upon annexation. The Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing on this matter, after which it will need to formulate a recommendation for the City Council. I'm available if you have any questions, and Mr. Rob Mulchin with SEC is also in attendance tonight as well.
Thank you, Mr. Barbie. Rob, do you have a presentation of sort or no?
Good evening, Rob Mulchin, SEC. I don't have anything for the annexation, but I do have for the zoning request following this item.
Thank you. All right. All right, this is for, so just so everybody knows, the next item on the agenda is actually the zoning application for this same property. but this public hearing is specific to the annexation. Is there anyone here that would like, well, let me back up a minute. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Mr. Barbie before we open up the public hearing? Okay. Anyone here to speak for or against the annexation petition of this particular piece of property? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And any comments, questions, or motions associated with it?
Move for approval.
Subject to staff comment?
Subject to staff comments, yes.
We have a motion and second.
Ms. Hazelwater,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Rollins,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. The next item on the agenda as a public hearing is the companion item as a zoning application to zone approximately 2.42 acres located along John Rice Boulevard and Spike Trail to PCD, Mazda Office for Off-Site Storage, and GDO1 simultaneous with annexation to rezone approximately .07 acres from CH and GDO1 to PCD and GDO1. Chad Custer is the applicant. Mr. Barbie.
Good evening again. As Mr. Halliburton stated, this is the companion zoning application to go along with the annexation petition you just reviewed. The request is to zone the blue area before you on this map. It's 2.42 acres to PCD, that's Planned Commercial District, and GDO1, simultaneous with annexation. The request also includes a 0.07 acre portion, which is the orange triangular shape that you'll see between the blue and John R. Rice Boulevard from Commercial Highway in GDO1 to Planned Commercial District in GDO1. The proposed use for this land in the Planned Commercial District that's been presented is for Nelson Mazda. They intend to repurpose the existing barn that's on the structure, make some modifications to it to be more compatible with the city's design guidelines, and then utilize it for some office space and for automotive detailing and conditioning of new and used vehicles. The area outside of the barn is proposed to be used for additional inventory storage. No deliveries are going to be made to this site. No customers will be invited to visit this site, and no sales will be made from this lot. It's going to have only access will be to John R. Rice Boulevard. There will be no connection to Spike Trail. There will actually be heavy buffers along both the eastern, southern, and then that small connection piece along Spike Trail where there will be heavy vegetative buffers to help shield the adjacent residents from any potential negative impacts. They are requesting 2 exceptions from our zoning ordinance with this application. As there are going to be the public will not be invited to the site. They're requesting permission to no longer provide formal open space, and also that they'll be able to repurpose the existing building and modify it as described in the plan book to better meet our city's design guidelines. Staff is in support of this application for the following reasons. The proposed commercial use is consistent with the commercial development pattern along John Rice Boulevard. No access will be made to the residential neighborhood along Spike Trail, and heavy landscape buffers will be provided to mediate any potential negative impacts to the neighboring properties. The Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing tonight on this matter and prior to formulating a recommendation for the City Council. I'm available if you have any questions, and Mr. Robert Molshan does have a presentation for you as well tonight.
Just to really quickly piggyback on something that Mr. Barbie said, I know that Mr. Newman in his monthly updates to y'all has talked about our study group for updating the design guidelines, and one of the focuses of that study group is fine-tuning our formal open space requirements. And so for a use like this, where the zoning ordinance may require formal open space, we look at it, we're starting to look at it and say, well, you know, maybe this isn't the most appropriate use of formal open space for a overflow car lot as opposed to a place like a shopping center or a hotel. And so I think in the future, once we complete our internal study on the design guidelines and bring that to you for your feedback, that's one of the things that we're going to be bringing to y'all are some recommended changes to the formal open space requirements. So just all that to say is they're requesting an exception to the formal open space requirements, but kind of in the way our thinking has evolved about formal open space is there are some uses where formal open space is really a lot less practical than others, and this would be one of them.
So to follow that, though, if the use was to change, since this is a PCD, I'm assuming whoever wanted to change the use would have to come back before this board. Is that correct?
Yeah, for any use that's not already in the pattern book,
Right.
it would have to be amended to allow that use, and that's something that the Planning Commission could consider at that time.
Thank you. Any questions for staff before Mr. Mulchin makes his presentation? Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Halliburton, Commissioners. Rob Mulchin, SEC. I'm here tonight on behalf of Chad Custer with Nelson Mazda to present to you our request for rezoning to a planned commercial district to create the Mazda office and off-site storage facility. You can see the property is located along John R. Rice Boulevard to the west of Interstate 24 and to the east of the Fortress Boulevard intersection with John Rice Boulevard, and it's also located along a small portion of Spike Trail on the southern end. Property is currently zoned RM, and portion of it is zoned CH in the city. You can see the land use plan there calls for suburban residential and also general commercial. Kind of look at some existing photos. So this is looking from the front of the property back out along John Rice Boulevard. This is looking to the west towards Fortress Boulevard. So it's, of course, it's a five-lane roadway that we'll be connecting to with the project. This is looking east. You're heading back towards Interstate 24. This is looking dead across the street, so this is kind of looking where you have the property line between the GM dealership on your right and the Mazda dealership on the left. So this facility would be directly across the street from the Mazda sited today. This is looking into the property itself. You can see it's just a more or less a rural look with a large barn that is what Ms. Smith is using for her bus services for the school system on that side. So this is where she stores and does maintenance on those buses. This is the building that we will be repurposing for the use of the detailing of the vehicles. Again, this is a closer view of that. This is the side that faces John Rice. This will be looking to be the side of the building that we'll be repurposing. Property itself roughly is about 2.49 acres. You can see here on the diagram for the site plan, we're going to have one entrance onto John Rice Boulevard, which allows us to come into what would be the vehicle storage yard. So this is where the new vehicles or slightly used vehicles will be stored. That would be also the access to the existing building, as we said, repurpose that side that faces John Rice Boulevard to incorporate some new roll-up doors. We'll talk a little more about that in the architectural portion there. This is really more or less than we've got a lot. You can see along the southern boundary and the eastern boundary that Mr. Barbie spoke about, a lot of vegetative buffering between us and the existing properties. The two homes that are closest to us are actually part of Ms. Smith's property, so we'll be subdividing the property and creating technically 3 lots. So you'll have 2 residential lots on either side of this PCZ zone property on that side. We talked a little bit about allowable uses in regards to what Mr. Blumley was talking about in regards to formal open space. This is the list of allowable uses. Again, if there is a change in this use, this would have to come back to the Planning Commission for that recommendation to make that change of use on that and look at any parameters that may need to be modified with the site plan with that change of use on that side. Again, this is mainly for the bulk vehicle deliveries will not be made to this property. They will be made to the Mazda dealership across the street. So any vehicles that are being brought to this site will be driven over by attendants from the actual Mazda dealership itself and brought to the property either for storage and or for the use of the detailing facilities inside the building itself on that side. We'll be adding some additional monument signage. Again, we're going to try to make, this is going to be where there are no customers coming here to look and shop on cars. This is just simply overstock capacity area for the dealership because the dealership's lot is so small in that corner and the inventories have gone up, so they're looking for a place to actually have a little extra room in that. And again, site lighting will comply with the City of Murfreesboro standards. Again, setbacks 42 feet to the John Rice Boulevard, 10 foot on either side, and also 20 foot to the rear side, and a 42-foot setback for any structures to Spike Trail. And these are all consistent with typical CH zoning in regards to setbacks. Regards to the buffering that I spoke about a little bit a while ago, of course, you can see the pink lines along the edges. Those will be our type C buffers. So that's a 12-foot wide double staggered row of evergreen trees that'll be planted at 6 foot high and will grow. We'll also have interlaced in between those staggered trees 4-foot tall evergreen shrubs to kind of hold in the appearance between the proposed use and the existing properties around it on that side. We'll also be incorporating, as you can see with the darker lines in the diagram, 2 locations that will be for additional evergreen trees to be planted, which is more or less to screen the overhead doors from John Rice Boulevard on that side. So we're providing some visual screening between those roll-up doors and the public realm along the right-of-way. Architecturally, like I said, this is going to be a repurposed building. So like the rendering that you see below is more or less a look at the barn as if it is today, but we've incorporated some architectural features to meet the design guidelines, which would be, of course, a 2-foot tall masonry base along the periphery of the building on that side. But you can also see some renditions of what these roll-up doors would look like in relationship to that. Now, the color of the doors would also match the color of the building, so we're going to be keeping it that same color that it is today, but the new roll-up doors will match that color so that it looks all one cohesive texture and color on that side. Again, this is kind of a little before and after in regards to those pictures, in regards to what the building would look like. This is what the roll-up doors on the other side look like with the bus currently on that side. So the left-hand image shows you that masonry, 2-foot tall masonry wall on that side. With this request, we're asking for 2 exceptions. One, as we spoke about earlier, was the request to remove the 5% formal open space requirement. Since this is actually not a public realm, this is just a business area, to reduce that to 0. And then also requesting the exception to allow us to utilize the existing building and repurpose it for its use so that it meets the design guidelines and architectural standards that are proposed in the book on page 10. With that, I'm available for any questions now or after the public hearing. Thank you all.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Moulton.
Thank you all.
All right, we will open the public hearing. Anyone here would like to speak for or against this particular zoning application? If you will, come up to the lectern and state your name and address.
Jacob Gooden, 712 Spike Trail. I know they're not planning to have this connect to Spike Trail currently, but would that prevent anyone from doing that in the future? And secondly, how are we planning to deal with the runoff from the asphalt parking lot? Because that area catches a lot of water when it rains. Is it going to affect anything throughout the rest of the neighborhood as far as drainage goes? It's only 2 questions that I have.
All right, and we will address those questions at the end of the public hearing. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And so let's address the gentleman's question, preventing access to Spike Trail. I would assume, Mr. Barbie, if it's not part of the PCD, then you're not going to be able to get to Spike Trail.
That's correct, sir. The site will need to be constructed just as it's shown here. If there were to be any use that's listed in the current plan book that occupies the property in the future, they would have the same process. They would need to come back through this body, back through council, in order to amend this plan book to add that access point.
Okay.
So there would be new public hearings, there would be new recommendations. It would all be done in the light.
So you would be, sir, you would be notified just like you would be for this public hearing to know that something's changing, whether it's access to Spike Trail or otherwise. Does someone want to address the runoff question with respect to the parking lot?
I think I'll let Rod think he's better.
Regards to the stormwater from this property alone, we'll have to fully engineer the site to make certain that we do not allow any additional water that's coming off the property today to be handled on other people's property as we go through. So this plan, if this PCD is approved by council, will go back through the body of the planning commission for a full review of the actual civil plans. So that'll include our stormwater maintenance project on that side. So in regards to that, that'll be fully engineered by our engineers and then reviewed by city engineers to make certain that we're complying with state ordinances and regulations relationship to any stormwater runoff from this property, making certain we're not affecting any adjacent property owners on that side.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mulchan. All right, any questions from the planning commission?
Hey, Brad, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I wasn't on council when Mazda and, what is that, a Chevy?
GM
something?
of Murfreesboro?
Yeah, when that got approved, what are the open space requirements for those? Did we make exceptions for the dealerships?
There were not, at the times those came through, there were not exceptions made for the dealerships. They had to provide both open space and formal open spaces on both properties, the best of my recollection.
I'm not inclined to do this, to give an exception here personally. If we'd done it for the dealerships across the street, I might be more okay with it, but just looks like a concrete jungle right there on John Rice. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like 5% is a super unrealistic formal open space number. It's not like we're asking for 30%. That I might could accept a deviation from.
We are meeting the required 20% open space requirements on the site, so we're just simply asking for the 5% of that 20% to be removed. So we're asking for the formal spaces. So if you've ever been to Honda just down the street, or you've been to GM across the street on that side, same thing with Mazda. Each of
I'm
those.
a Toyota girl, Rob.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, Toyota has it too, actually. So, so between all four of the dealerships that have been built over here on the side of the interstate, they all do have formal open spaces on it. Those are open to the public. This property is not going to be open to the public. It's going to be only open to employees of Mazda. So that's why we're asking for the exception, because there's going to be technically nobody coming there to utilize the open space. And I think this is to Mr. Blumley's point about why we're relooking at the formal open space requirements being a blanket across every development in the city, that there are some projects that technically don't warrant a formal open space, but yet we're required to, because the design guidelines require it today to utilize that a lot of those spaces that we design end up going unused. And it's really just one of those things where it's, it's a blanket statement, so we're trying to deal with it on that side. If this was more of a public realm, like the dealerships were themselves on that side, then the understandable that, yeah, it would be pertinent to put open spaces, formal open spaces, seating areas, that kind of stuff that could be done at Honda, Mazda, and Toyota's done the same thing as well, have those little plazas and stuff like that. Part of the problem with the dealerships, and I'm not going to name any names on that side, is that a lot of these formal open spaces, because they are plaza areas, they do tend to get used for storage of vehicles for showroom spaces. So with this being one of those cases where we're not looking at this being a public realm, that's why we're asking for that exception to be requested on that side.
The formal open space areas are more for gathering and recreation, but as Mr. Mulchan said, he's still meeting the open space requirement, which is the green area requirement.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Thank you, Rob.
This will also help Nelson Mazda not be able to unload trucks in the middle of John Rice too.
I don't think that it will.
Yeah, the
will?
the unloading of vehicles, I can't speak to how the operations of that happen, but again, this site will not be accepting vehicles off a truck on that side. It's supposed to be being accepted only on the Mazda side across the street and then driven over by employees to this site.
Yeah, but
So-
they're not going to keep parking your thing right there. They're not pulling in here
By
with
pulling the extra cars out of the other dealership, they're gonna be able to pull the unload truck onto the Nelson Mazda site to unload.
Okay, Mr. Harney would like to speak if you'd like.
Sure. Because that truck on John Rice really messes with my Starbucks in the morning. Mr. Harney, when I pull in to get my Starbucks, that truck blocks my view.
I think I've been involved in about John Harney Park Trust commercial. I think I've been involved in 5 dealerships, and every time staff makes it have to template to where trucks or cars can be unloaded on the dealership. Now, I don't know where the disconnect is when people pull up to deliver cars and they end up in the turn lane, but this one is really correcting the overload of cars that's presently in the Mazda dealership so that they can make sure they've got room on their present dealer, the existing dealership, to pull in and unload cars so they're not violating like a whole lot of the other dealerships are up and down the street. Right now, they've got some inventory over there that's 3 deep because they can't keep the inventory for the demand in Murfreesboro. A lot of it has to stay in Nashville, and therefore they send customers to Nashville and actually sell cars in the Nashville market that could be being sold in Murfreesboro if they had room for their inventory. So this lets them clear their lot down, make it meet the requirements across the street, both from a fire protection standpoint, fire engine, and for offloading trucks. So this really makes them a better participant in abiding like the site plans are supposed to.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
You can get your
Okay.
Starbucks.
Thank you.
We're not gonna see another truck on John Rice.
I better not. I'm just kidding. Any other questions? Because if not, I will. Any others? Nope. Make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Okay, go.
I'm just confirming we closed the public hearing.
Oh,
Yeah, that's,
Yes, we did. Yes, thank you. Okay. Ms. Averwater?
aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is a zoning application for approximately 2.05 acres located along East Pitts Lane to be rezoned from CF to CH. Murfreesboro Medical Clinic is the applicant. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission. This particular project, as a public hearing, is looking at the existing site on Pitts Lane, which a couple of years ago, Planning Commission and City Council annexed and changed the entire site to a CF zone district, shown here in red, what we refer to as the parent parcel. And as part of that parent parcel, MMC is approved and under construction with their clinic at this location. There will be 2 other lots along the frontage of Las Casas. And then this 4th parcel area is the one that they would like to have a future emergency room. The CF zone district does not allow for what we term a hospital, and by our definition in our zoning code, an emergency clinic or emergency center is actually classified as a hospital. So the applicant applied for a zone change from a CF to a CH, which is highway commercial. And when we're looking at our future land use for this, you'll notice on this map, it shows it actually the light green, which is our future study area. But when we originally annexed it and zoned it, it had a different designation. We did not adopt our new future land use plan as of yet. At that point in time, it was an SR. And at that time, Planning Commission and Council did determine to allow the annexation and the zone change for the parcel. So in this particular case, even though it shows the light green, this would be a area where we think that the Planning Commission can look at our transitional policy. What is located in and around this particular piece is county territory. A lot of it is commercial here along Las Casas Pike. I believe there's a Dollar General and 2 other, let's see, Dollar General store, and I think 2 other commercial uses. And so in looking at our transition policy, it does allow for a consideration of a different designation than that future service area. And based on those things, staff is supportive of it for the following reasons. Is 1, the CH zone district would allow for that hospital use of the emergency room. The CH zoning is compatible with the existing uses along the east side of Las Casas Pike that are in the county. Intended emergency room is complementary to the MMC building. As was previously mentioned, there is another facility similar to this in a different portion of town that is functioning quite well. And then lastly, the proposed request may be appropriate instance to utilize our transition policy of the future land use map for the 2035 comprehensive plan. With that, this has been a notice public hearing. There were several questions I think staff, Planning Commission had last time that I believe are addressed in your staff report that the applicant may more fully address, and both the applicant and their partner are both here in the audience should you have any questions or if you have a presentation to go over the specifics of the project. And then included in your packet was the final plat showing those 4 parcels and what they would propose the layout for the emergency room facility to look like. And I'll scroll to that so you have it on screen.
And those commercial uses on the east side of Las Casas, just to the north, of course, are the MMC satellite clinic currently under construction, an automotive dent repair business, a gas station, and a Dollar General.
And then here you can see that lower site that would actually be attached to East Pitts. East Pitts, when we did approve, you did approve a final plat on this a while back, and in that they needed to coordinate with the county, and they have been coordinating with the county on improvements that they would also be required to make along there. So if you have any other questions of staff, otherwise.
Anyone have questions for Ms. Smith?
I got a couple of questions. Just, I've heard from several property owners over the past couple days. Is there any way to route the ambulances down 96 instead of East Pitts Lane? I don't know if I'd live on a road if I'd want an ambulance driving by my house at 3 o'clock in the morning with sirens blaring either. But it seems to me, I mean, you go another couple, 100 yards, you go in from 96. So everybody that I talked to seemed to be very supportive of the emergency room and its location. Just the routing of the ambulances seemed to be everybody's concern.
Joey P. I'm CEO of Murfreesboro Medical Clinic and also a resident at 1501 Cripple Creek Road out in the county. I think the misperception of ambulances coming in and dropping patients off, that's really not the role of a freestanding ED. So if an ambulance is called out to Las Casas, Milton, and they're coming in and they pick up a patient, they're not stopping here because they're transporting, they've got that patient, they're triaging them. They're more going to be taking them to the Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford Hospital out on Medical Center Parkway. This is really with the freestanding emergency department. It's for the farmer like me out in Readable that does something stupid on the farm and I've got to go somewhere and this is the closest facility to my location. Now, an ambulance may transport somebody from here that shows up at whatever time and things, but it's more going to be those transports out, not ambulances coming in and dropping off. Mr. Gordon Ferguson, the former CEO of Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford, is here and he can share with you some of those numbers, what we've seen out at the West Lawn location where they have a neighborhood hospital, which neighborhood hospital is a little different than a freestanding emergency department that's being proposed for this property. But even at that point, they're not having ambulances coming in, dropping off at that emergency room. Again, it's somebody hurts themselves and they show up at that emergency department, not have to wait for whatever time at the main emergency room, either at Stonecrest or at Rutherford Hospital here. So,
Thank you.
Good evening. Gordon Ferguson. I serve in a transitional role with the hospital right now, but was the former CEO for a good number of years. As Joey mentioned, this is different from our freestanding hospital over in the West Lawn area. That facility, in addition to ER, also has inpatient beds. What we're proposing to do in the Las Casas project is ER only. But when we look at the West Lawn project, about 1.4% of our total ER visits coming to that facility are arriving via EMS. The vast majority are coming through private vehicles. There are a good number of patients that are being transferred from West Lawn to the main hospital. That number is about 14%. But the majority of that group are stabilized at West Lawn and then are transported over to the main ER. So we really believe that the benefit of having an easily accessible ER on the Las Casas area serving the eastern part of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County far outweighs that potential disruption you may have with sirens coming from EMS traffic. So I hope that clarifies the question and the concern.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright, if I may, just to add, just to make sure everything is clear, with this being bulk zoning, any proposed use or proposed operational aspect of that use is nothing that could be tied to zoning.
Sure.
So just anything that they mention here tonight is just a good faith effort for them to provide information, but nothing that we can tie to the zoning.
Mr. Ferguson, outbound ambulances going to Ascension on Medical Center Parkway, just curious, would they have the whole sirens going, or they're just transporting
the vast majority is transporting.
Yeah, okay.
Once they're stabilized, then that would not necessitate
Okay.
the need for that. So appreciate that clarification.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. P. or Mr. Ferguson before we go?
I will just add that in our last presentation, Mr. Everett mentioned the need for a certificate of need, and that is certainly still one of the contingencies that will need to be cleared before we can move forward with this. Originally, we thought that was going to be heard this month, but just recently we learned that's going to be moved until September, and so we'll be prepared for that.
Let me also ask from last month's meeting when Ms. Averwater raised that issue, you know, we were comfortable with the CF zoning that was originally approved. It was surprising that freestanding emergency rooms aren't even a consideration within the city's zoning operations, to where you would think the commercial fringe would have been acceptable. So if you approve this, the CON for some strange reason doesn't get approved, then we would look to not do anything else with this. I assume the Ascension folks would not want to move forward since they would not have their CON. But I would also note that last month, the Health Facilities Commission approved two new hospitals totaling about 100 beds between the two of them in Montgomery County, on top of the 270-bed Tenova Hospital that's already there. I do not see the Health Facility Commission denying either the Ascension application or the TriStar application for a freestanding ED down on 231 South, right at the corner, I think, of Warrior Drive and 231.
So just, I know this is what you're saying, but if they don't get the CON, what we're saying is you're not going to pursue the CF. Is that correct?
CH,
excuse me.
Yeah, well, if you've already granted it pursuant to that, and that's what I would ask that you do.
Okay.
But if for some reason this falls through, I'm not going to pursue other uses for that would be incompatible with what we're doing on the rest of the site.
Okay.
Because again, kind of living on the east side of town, what we're trying to do, and as MMC, these are our neighbors. I mean, we've got a 40,000 square foot medical office building going there, so we want compatible businesses that bring value, to bring services, much like we dealt with you guys a couple years ago about why is traffic so bad? Well, you got to go across town to eat. You got to go across town to get this. Putting services in the community where people live and not requiring them to drive across town helps assist that. The medical services with what MMC is going to provide, and then also with what Ascension St. Thomas is proposing, I think is consistent with that plan, and that's what we would stick to. Chairman Halliburton.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on something Mr. P said, Mr. Tully would have to address the legality of us conditioning zoning on a certificate of need, but I think probably the more, if he's so inclined. But if you are inclined to recommend approval of their zoning request, I think probably the way that we would handle this, if Mr. P is saying that it's not important for him to pursue the CH zoning, if for some reason that certificate of need is not granted, then I think probably the way to handle that, if you are inclined to recommend approval, would be to delay the city council public hearing or delay the city council second reading such that the zoning would not go through, or that city council would not hold its final vote until after the certificate of need is acted upon. Are y'all okay with that?
Sounds good to me.
That's
Yeah,
my preference.
I would agree with that, procedurally what we're doing here today, this body is just making a recommendation to city council. And so the recommendation can be conditional. In this instance, if the body so wishes, you could recommend that city council approves pending the approval of the certificate of need. And if that's not forthcoming, then city council not act upon it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we haven't had a public hearing on this, have we?
No, I just
All
went
right.
down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Right in.
All right, with that, assuming there are no more questions, at this point, we will go ahead and open the public hearing on this application. Anyone here want to speak for or against this particular application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And any comments, questions, or motions?
Move for approval, subject to all staff comments, conditional on zoning.
Second.
Yeah,
Conditional
on
upon the acceptance of
Yeah.
the
CON.
issuance of the certificate of need.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. I think Kelly seconded it. All right, Ms.
Ms.
Jacob.
Water?
So sorry, I think the applicant has a clarifying question before we vote. Is that okay with you all?
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean? And because what I thought I heard was said, you're making a motion to approve, and then the city council is the one that would ultimately accept that and qualify based upon the CON approval.
Would you like me to answer?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yes, sir. So because this is a zoning change, the authority to change the zoning rests with city council. So this body can't decide whether or not to rezone, but it makes a recommendation to city council. So tonight is just the recommendation coming from the planning commission that they recommend that the planning commission approve the rezoning conditioned upon the issuance of the certificate of need. And then city council in 21 days plus however long until the next meeting would then have their hearing where they decide whether or not to act upon it. And hopefully by then the certificate of need will have.
And Mr. P, what I would recommend is that you and I can get together after the meeting or tomorrow, and then you can give me more information on when the state will be acting upon it. And that way we can schedule our city council public hearing accordingly.
September 24th. We thought it was going to be the end of this month. They've kicked it for some reason to September 24th at the state level.
Do
And so
y'all feel reasonably certain that it will be acted upon at that meeting? Okay.
We were reasonably certain it was going to be acted upon in 3 weeks, but for some reason the state kicked it for a month.
Well, we can proceed accordingly then.
Okay.
All right. I think we have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco, go ahead.
Ms. Water?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. The next item on the agenda is a zoning application for approximately 14.9 acres located along Franklin Road to be rezoned from PUD to PCD. Swanson Development LP is the applicant. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Chair Halliburton. The subject property tonight that we're discussing is approximately 14.9 acres of vacant land located on the south side of Franklin Road between Covenant Boulevard and Conquest Road. So this piece of property was originally part of the Kingdom Ridge PUD, which was initially approved in 2003 and amended in 2014. So as far as adjacent land or adjacent uses and zoning to this property, it's a mixture of commercial and residential. Just to the north of this site is single-family residential within the unincorporated county, which is zoned medium-density residential. To the east and then to the south is single-family residential that is part of the Kingdom Ridge PUD currently. And then to the west is Zone CH. It's the current location of the Aldi and under construction Kingdom Ridge Storage. So the subject property itself is currently part of the Kingdom Ridge PUD, and it is identified as Parcel B. Parcel B currently permits churches and some institutional uses, as well as approximately 41 single-family residential units with what would be equivalent to RS 15,000 square foot lot along Franklin Road. And then as you go south on the site towards Pillar Drive, those have a requirement of 12,000 square feet. So it does permit both institutional and residential uses currently. The remainder of the Kingdom Ridge PUD is developed out according to the pattern book as either multifamily or single-family residential. And we have some updates on the pattern book that we got earlier today. So the pattern book is proposing 8 commercial lots. The zoning of this property is primarily modeled after CH, commercial highway district, with some specific variations from that. If you remember at the last time Planning Commission heard about this, we had some discussion with the neighbors at a neighborhood meeting, and there were concerns about motor vehicle services, and then gasoline sales. And both of those uses were limited to 3 lots on the property, being Lot 1, which, Lot 1, Lot 7, and Lot 8. So those that are furthest away from existing residential would permit those gasoline sales and automobile services. Changes that have been made since last time you saw this PCD was the gasoline sales has been limited to 1 of those 3 lots, so you won't have more than one gasoline gas station on this site. There hasn't been any change to the automotive. It would still be permitted on all 3 of those lots, and there could potentially be multiples of those. Other than that, it prohibits tobacco and vape dispensaries, bulk mulch shells. Storage buildings are also not included in the permitted use table. So some of those items that were brought up as concerns of the neighbors at that meeting have been addressed or were previously addressed within the PCD. As far as access goes, access for this site is going to be off of Franklin Road onto onto Covenant Boulevard via an extension of Malacat Drive. There will be no access provided via Conquest Road. Also along Conquest Road, there will be a Type E buffer to buffer those commercial uses from the existing residential that's on Conquest Road. And then along Covenant Boulevard, there will be street landscape plantings as well, with trees on spacing patterns there to provide some landscaping along that. As far as design standards and parking, the PCD heavily relies on our existing design guidelines and landscaping requirements. There's not anything that is over and above It pretty much mimics those standards within our existing documents. And there are currently no exceptions proposed in this PCD. As far as the future land use map, the future land use map calls this area, or calls out this parcel as private and public, private institutional, which when the land use plan was crafted, the thought behind that was there was existing zoning in place and there wasn't intended to be changed here. So that designation really supports that church use that was in place in the current Kingdom Ridge PUD. Staff does believe this may be an opportunity to use the transition policy, as this proposed PCD does have some more auto-intensive and heavier uses closer to the CH zoned portions of the surrounding property on the west side, and goes to less auto-dependent uses along those border lots that are currently would be closer to residential homes or in the back of this cul-de-sac. And as I mentioned earlier, there was a neighborhood meeting on July 15th. We had approximately 25 residents there. They raised concerns regarding excluding liquor stores, self-storage, I'd already mentioned, gas stations, and automobile services. Also prohibiting the use of metal as a primary building material, and then limiting the connection between lots 6 and 7, which would be out here on Franklin Road to right in and right out. And then it was also brought up of potentially installing a fence along areas, the buffer area along Conquest Road. Staff is supportive of the rezoning request for the following reasons. The PCD is consistent with the existing commercial character of the area, particularly along Franklin Road, a 5-lane major thoroughfare suited for commercial development. The PC zoning is also compatible with the CH zoning designated to the west and restricts auto-centric uses to the areas farther away from residential uses in order to minimize negative impacts to those adjacent homes. And number 3, the proposed type E buffer will help minimize any potential impacts on adjacent residential properties to the east and south. Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing on this matter and make a recommendation to City Council. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Chris McGuire is here representing the applicant, and he has a presentation for the body as well.
So one question I have, you mentioned the gas station is limited to one lot. Is that lot 7?
So the way it is phrased, and I will zoom in here so you can see it on the screen.
Only one gas station, but it can
Yeah,
occur on 3
it
lots.
limits it to one gas station on any of those 3 lots.
Okay.
So it could go on lot 1, 7, or 8, but there could never be more than one gas station.
I see. Okay. I understood it wrong.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Donovan? All right.
And I apologize, I didn't realize Mr. Roundtree, or Clyde had walked in, sorry.
Thank you, Richard. Planning Commissioners, my name is Clyde Roundtree with the Huddleston Steel Engineering. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of walk through a few details with Kingdom Ridge Commercial. This is really what we're doing with Swanson's developments, is we're trying to create a little bit more flexibility with their projects. In the past, there's full bore master plan, tremendous amount of detail with exactly the building locations, and they've just found that as life happens, the economy changes, the projects kind of morph over time. So this is just providing us more flexibility with use and without getting bound to a specific plan for the lot, for the property. So Richard did a great job just kind of explaining that. That's really the core of what we're here for, is to create more opportunities for them, a little more flexibility in programming the site. As Richard mentioned, there's 8 sites, 1 to 2 acre sites that are being developed in this project, accessed off of Covenant, as was mentioned. We met a lot, Swanson's group is here if you have any specific questions about them, but they met with the neighbors along Conquest. And that was a real big part of this process, was the previous PUD allowed for single family along Conquest directly across from the homes that were there. So we canvassed the residents and asked them their preference over residential homes across the street or a green space across the street. So they chose the type E buffer with additional green space. So across from the homes, the first 5 to 6 homes along Conquest, it's going to feel a lot more like a linear park. It'll be maintained by the Swanson Group. That'll be our responsibility to make sure that's maintained. But the goal was to create distance and intensify the buffer so those residents along Conquest would have some separation from the back of the structures that would potentially be developed on this site. That being said, the meeting was very productive. We were able to take out the uses that they were most concerned with. And really, lots, as Richard mentioned, lots 1, 7, and 8 were actually potentially could be gas stations, and the neighbors would prefer not to have a gas station at all. However, that's really a prime location for a gas station, but we felt like the compromise was to allow one of the lots to be used for a gas station, and that would be the lot of whatever the end user chooses. The other thing that's kind of in question that was mentioned is access on the Franklin Road through the lot. As this develops, there'll be a center lane that will be developed between the parcels on the front of Franklin Road, fronting Franklin Road, and that process is going to require the state involvement to know exactly what kind of turn lane, what kind of left-hand out, right-hand out only scenario that's going to be allowed. So that's a little bit still in question. We definitely want to have access at that point, whether it be full access where someone can take a left turn, go across and actually go across the road and take a left. That's the question mark that we're working with the state on in terms of if this is approved. The other thing, there was a lot of the lot, it's escaping me, but I think it's lot number 2, right against Conquest and Franklin Road. That was a lot. There's a graveyard on that site, so we're having to respect an existing condition situation with the graveyard. But at one point, we were asking for access on the Conquest just on that lot, so they could, they can basically come in from the neighborhood and get in the commercial area and with that route. But that was basically discouraged. Because of the road alignment and that radius, it turned out that was not a good idea. So we eliminated any access from that lot on the Conquest. So with that being said, there's a self-storage building that's being built, in close proximity to the neighborhood, and they're not real happy with how that's looking. So that's where the removal of any self-storage came from in this development, and also the removal of metal materials. I think the self-storage is within the constraints and, the regulations of the architectural review for Murfreesboro, but they just would really rather not have that in their neighborhood. The only other thing that came to question would be pedestrian access from Malachite Drive, the new road, into the neighborhood via a walkway. That was kind of contemplated at the neighborhood meeting, but it was determined that we would rather not have any access from the neighborhood into this development. So all that being said, I'm here for any questions, and Mr. Chris McGuire's here. If you have any questions related to stormwater or traffic circulation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that may come up after the public hearing. Swanson's are here as well. Joe 3's here for any specific questions about potential development characteristics.
Any questions for Mr. Roundtree or the applicant? All right. Thank you, Clyde. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak for or against this application, please come forward. Come on up. Again, if you'll state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Billy Pittard, and what else did you want to hear?
Your address.
2322 Paddock Court.
Thank you, sir.
The reason I wanted to speak for just a moment is that the property is, of course, not entirely vacant. There is a family cemetery there. I have 4 ancestors in that cemetery. I appreciate that that the cemetery was mentioned a minute ago, and I've spoken to Mr. Swanson. I just want to emphasize that there is a cemetery there. It's not entirely vacant lot. So, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other person would like to come speak? Come on up.
Alan Corrigan, 139 Conquest Road. So these plans are kind of different from what they gave us when the ladies were walking around with half residential, half commercial from about a year ago. I did say, hey, we'd rather have commercial with 30-foot of buffer as opposed to houses right along Conquest, which was the original plans. Well, now I'm looking at these, and I'm about to be looking at the rear of two different commercial buildings out my front window. I think this is, I don't like this design at all. Like, this is, like, now, the first 8 houses on Conquest, we're all gonna be looking at the rear side of a fast food restaurant or whatever, and we got all these rules. I can't have my trash can even seen from the road, but now I'm gonna have 6-foot trees and be looking at the back of 2 different commercial sites. I'm like, this, I don't see why they couldn't all face 96 and have a line, a road that comes off of 96. Like, this feels to me like it's gonna put me in a weird spot where the design isn't even gonna seem right to me. Like, I'm gonna be facing 2 different, you know, dumpsters or whatever from whatever commercial buildings decide to buy there, you know. And while the rest of the neighborhood in the back, they're all part of it, and us 8 houses on Conquest are just kind of sticking out there like a sore thumb. And this is, you know, I've lived there since 2007. This was not what I was, you know, kind of told, anticipated what this would turn into.
Right. So I think what we can do is address your question regarding the buffer itself, and then maybe some, that Clyde can address maybe the view that you might have from your front door.
Right.
And then also, we can also address the issue of once any plans that come, and Matthew, you can correct me what I'm about to say is wrong, but any plans that would come for these lots, we would see the plat. Would that be true? And no, site plan, thank you. Yeah.
You would see the plat, and the site plan would, if there were no off-site transportation or drainage improvements, then the site plan would qualify for administrative review and approval. However, if you wanted to make it a condition that all site plans came to the Planning Commission, then you could certainly make that a condition of approval.
All right, so that'll be up to the commission as part of our discussion.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak for or against this application? All right, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. I don't know if it's staff or Mr. Roundtree. I know we talked about the cemetery in your presentation, but can you give us more clarity as to what will be done or will not be done with respect to the cemetery?
Hi, everybody. Chris McGuire with Huddleston Steel Engineering. The intention is that the family cemetery will remain on site. What's traditionally done is some extra parking put near that site where the families could come visit, and it's traditionally also fenced off so that it's not to be bothered. I would anticipate that level of detail coming with a site plan, but that's pretty standard, and I think that's the intention for this site.
Okay. And then the next question, can somebody give us, either go to the document in the PCD that would show us the buffer on Covenant, and then give us an idea of maybe the view shed that the folks on Covenant would have at the
Conquest.
Conquest, sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Halliburton, that we knew that would be a point of concern, and so the Type buffer is a double row of evergreen with a double row of, you know, lower shrubbery. So that's one of the more intense buffers that we have in the city. The distance, we have 30 feet from the curb to where the buffer starts. The buffer's another 20 feet, so we really have almost 50 feet of separation from the curb to the backside of the buffer. We also have a wide street, so from Mr. Allen's house, there's his front yard, the road, then an additional 50 feet. And that's where the neighbors, we showed them both options. We showed them how it would look with driveways and road, you know, homes along that. We also showed them the opportunity to have more of a green space kind of linear park, and that's why they really kind of moved us in this direction. We are also adding a layer of street trees in front, so there may be a chance we can align one of those street trees to make sure, in front of his home. He's expressed that. He expressed that at the neighborhood meeting, and he's here. So there might be something we can do specifically with locating some of the street trees that are along the road in his cone of sight, potentially. I can't guarantee that because I know there's some regulations related to that, but that would be a layering solution that may help, alleviate some of the concerns over potentially seeing the backside of the structures.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked on the GIS, and it's more or less from the front of one of the houses on Conquest. It's about 75 feet from the front of the structure to the curb on the other side of Conquest. And you're saying it'll be another 50 feet after that. So I mean, what's 75? Thank you. It's 120.
Yeah,
it's
so
a law school for a
is it
reason.
Joseph
I'm so
Adelot?
sorry.
Distance is their best friend, or what was his quote? He had a great one about distance. He's like,
So I mean, it's,
distance is your best buffer.
yeah. So it's more or less 125 feet from the front of a building.
Yeah.
The front of the homes. I mean, and a type E buffer is, it's an expensive buffer for the developer, which I understand. Is the buffer, though, mostly grass and those mature trees? Is there any other buffer
Yeah.
on the interior side? There is shrubbery?
Yeah, Jamie, the trees are they're shade trees. They're really more of a street tree, just to kind
Okay.
of create the character of more of a park-like. The buffer is beyond that, and that's where you have your double row of evergreens, double row of shrubs. So it's a very intense buffer.
The type E buffer is the most intense buffer that we have, and it's what we would normally
Right.
require between industrial zoning and residential zoning.
Right. And I mean, yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant as we've closed the public hearing? And if not, any motions?
Oh, I would not be sad. Does council see site plans? Would
No.
council see site plans for these either? No. So they would all be administratively approved.
They would either be administratively approved or would go to planning commission, depending on if they met the criteria for planning commission review. Or you could require them to be approved by planning commission for each of those 8 lots.
You just want to do that?
I was making a statement. I'm not currently deliberating. Anybody want to deliberate that?
I mean, I'm of the opinion it doesn't hurt. I think we are trying to do the best job we can with respects to the neighbors that are on Conquest. The fact that the site plans would come before the planning commission, I don't have an issue with, but
But I guess at that point in time, reviewing the site plan, we wouldn't be able to change the buffers or anything like that. We'd be looking at just the site itself. We wouldn't be able to go and add a fence on Conquest or anything like that, correct?
The planning commission does have the authority during the site plan review process, if there are aspects of the site that pose a negative impact to adjacent neighbors. The planning commission does have the ability to require buffering or other mitigation measures in excess of what the zoning would require.
So we could consider just doing site plan review for lots 2 through 5, as those would be the only ones that would abut a house.
Well, and, yeah, 6 is actually also right across from the first house on,
Barely, yeah.
on Conquest.
all right, does someone have a motion to that effect? Or any other discussion associated with that? Or the application?
I'm going to make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments and condition upon site plan review for just all the lots.
Is there a second?
Second.
And that's Planning Commission site plan review of all the lots.
All right, any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none, Ms. Jaco.
Ms. Saberwater,
Abstain.
Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. Rollins,
Aye.
Mr. Wright,
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. All right, that application passes, subject to those comments. The next item is a zoning application for approximately 17.26 acres located along Cason Lane to be rezoned from CF and OG to PUD. Lennar is the applicant. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Chair Halliburton. So the subject property we're discussing currently is approximately 17.26 acres and is currently vacant. It is located just on the west side of Cason Lane, just to the north of the intersection of Cason Lane and New Salem Highway. As far as the surrounding and adjacent land use and zoning, it is a mixture of commercial and residential uses and zoning. Just to the north of the subject property is Cason Estate Apartment Homes, which is zoned RM16. To the east is Cason Ridge Apartments, which is also zoned RM16, along with some vacant commercial fringe zoned land. And then to the south is the Walmart Neighborhood Marketplace, which is zoned CF. And then to the west is some vacant land zoned CH and RM16. So the Cason Lane PUD, let me get to a master plan. Is proposing 94 single-family attached homes, so townhomes, as well as 2 commercial out parcels. It's proposed to be completed in 3 phases, with phase 1 being the residential portions, and then the commercial parcels being the additional 2 phases of the PUD. So the homes are proposed to be 2-story designs with front porches and garages. They'll have, and on the screen you can see a rendering of the front. There's also language in the pattern book to require a 24-inch brick water table on all 4 sides with hardy board siding above, and the use of neutral tones with vinyl and aluminum being used in trim situations, and shingled roofs. So the individual lots themselves are the townhomes are proposed to be on individual lots. You can see here on the master plan, they're proposed to be individual lots, 2,000 square feet with 20-foot widths. As far as the commercial out parcels, those are really targeting neighborhood services for the proposed residential and nearby existing residential. It's modeled after our commercial fringe zoning, with some limited exceptions to that to remove items. Those commercial out parcels, as well as these 2 parcels here, are going to be limited to using the streets that are being built along with the subdivision to access Cason Lane, so there will be no direct access from those commercial zoned properties to Cason Lane. They're going to use these alleys that are not alleys, but the public road that will fall in between those lots. So the development is going to offer several amenities, which we had them provide some additional clarifying text. There is a dog park located here. You have a playground and a pavilion that is located here, along with covered up the mail kiosk. There's 3 parking spaces associated with the mail kiosk, 5 that would be adjacent to would provide access to that pavilion and playground area, and then a larger lot of about 10 in the back with the dog park area. Additional guest parking provided in addition to each unit providing 4 spots in the residential section. They are providing little coves of 2 units for these that are up closer to the street along where the detention pond is, and then there's a larger guest parking area here as well. Other amenities within the area include picnic pads, which they're going to have a seating place and a table for residents to use. This will also be under HOA that will maintain all of the common areas. And so, and I mentioned that they provided some clarification on site amenities. You see there, here on the screen, there are specifics as far as the size of the dog park, some additional information on fencing and other items to be provided there, along with the walking trail, the playground and play structures, and then the pavilion size and that material that will be associated along with it. So this PUD does not, include any exceptions to the zoning ordinance. If you remember, there was one in question last time Planning Commission saw this item. We've since worked with them. They have the parking that would be required. There's no issue there and no need for an exception from the zoning ordinance. As far as the future land use plan, this does identify the site is auto urban residential, which is looking for 4 to 12 dwelling units per acre. And the comprehensive plan recommends RS10 zoning all the way to the RSA zonings that would support townhomes. The AUR designation does have a caveat for townhomes on lots of 4.1 acres or greater, that there are 20% of the overall acreage consists of attached residential units, and a maximum of 40% of the total number of units attached and of attached residential units be provided in the AUR area. As you can tell, this is a little bit of this is an exception to that. This is a full townhome development versus what the comprehensive plan is looking for. There would be something that's a mixture of single-family residential as well as just townhomes. Staff does believe that this may be another opportunity to use the transition policy for the portion for this property, the portion of this property that's going to be residential, as the commercial areas are really adjacent to Cason Lane and New Salem that already has existing commercial along it, and then the residential portions provide for a transition between those existing townhomes to those commercial areas that are along New Salem Highway, as well as provides a transition to the property to the west that has RM16 zoning in place and would allow a similar style development on that property. So Planning Commission will need to determine if the use of the transition policy is appropriate. Staff is supportive of the rezoning request because the rezoning request is an appropriate use of the transition policy in staff's opinion, using the existing development pattern of multifamily housing to transition to the commercial quarter along New Salem Highway. The proposed residential uses in the PUD zoning is consistent and compatible with the existing housing types or permitted housing types in the immediate vicinity, while preserving neighborhood commercial opportunities along Cason Lane. And the subject property is currently vacant and situated in an area of active residential growth, making it well positioned to complement ongoing development trends and to meet housing needs. The Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing on this matter, after which it will need to formulate a recommendation for City Council. I'm happy to answer any questions that Planning Commission may have, and Mr. Tyler Fisher is here representing the applicant as well.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Any questions for Mr. Donovan? All right. Mr. Fisher, do you have a presentation or want to make any comments?
No presentation. I think Mr. Donovan did a great job, but here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, we'll open up a public hearing. I think we just lost everybody. Anyway, we'll open up a public hearing. Anyone would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And any questions from the Planning Commission and/or comments or motions?
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Saberwater?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. The last public hearing that we have is a mandatory referral to consider the abandonment of a segment of Kenny Pipe Court right-of-way located north of Joe B. Jackson Parkway. City of Murfreesboro is the applicant, and I don't see Ms. Kerr, so Mr. Blomley.
I'm going to fill in for Ms. Kerr tonight. She is on a well-deserved day of vacation, spending time with her family, so we hope she's enjoying her day off. This is for a right-of-way abandonment request for the southernmost segment of Kenny Pipe Court. It's my understanding that this right-of-way is actually owned by the state of Tennessee, and the city is going through the right-of-way abandonment process with the state and with their excess land committee. And according to Mr. Maloney of Griggs and Maloney, that process is nearing its completion. They're just waiting on some documents in order for the state to be able to transfer that to the city. But what we have done in situations like this, for example, across the street with the Buc-ee's development, where we have a state right-of-way, that the street upon the state right-of-way is kind of a local street, even though it's on state right-of-way. We take action to abandon any right-of-way interest that we have in the property, even though we don't own the property outright. As Mr. Huddleston, Mr. Sam Huddleston would say, it's a belts and suspenders approach. And so we are, in addition to the state acting to abandon it, we are requesting that you abandon our right-of-way interest in it so that the state can then quitclaim it quitclaim it to the city. So you'll recall last month at the Planning Commission Day meeting, you approved a site plan for the transfer station, the solid waste transfer station on the property just to the north of this Kenny Pipe Court right-of-way. And so this Kenny Pipe Court right-of-way, a good bit of it would be incorporated into the lot that will house the solid waste transfer facility. And so the site plan actually relies significantly on the abandonment of that right-of-way in order for some of the improvements that are proposed on that site plan that was approved last month. Staff, as we always do with a right-of-way abandonment, reached out to other departments and utilities to obtain information from them as to how it would affect their operations, and a summary of those responses are attached for your review. But based on the responses received, staff recommends the following conditions of approval be applicable to the right-of-way abandonment. Number one, the quitclaim deed to abandon the city's right-of-way interest in the area shall be subject to the final approval of the city legal department. Number two, if the abandonment is approved, a subdivision plat combining the abandoned right-of-way with the adjacent lots shall be submitted to the planning department for review and approval, and the quitclaim deed for the right-of-way abandonment and the companion final plat are to be recorded simultaneously. Number three, easements for the existing CUD water line and access to it must be recorded simultaneously with the recording of the quitclaim deed. Number four, if the abandonment is approved, then the appropriate easements for existing utility and drainage infrastructure located within that abandoned right-of-way, potentially including but not limited to CUD, MTE, and ATMOS, shall be recorded on the subdivision plat. So we'll need to conduct a public hearing on this right-of-way abandonment and then make a recommendation to City Council. Mr. Darren Gore, our city manager, is here if you have any questions regarding the proposed development of the solid waste transfer station, as is Mr. Ryan Maloney with Griggs and Maloney, our engineering consultant on that project. Be happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Any questions? Hearing none, we will,
Bless you, Mr. Prince.
we will open the public hearing. Anyone would wish to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Comments, questions, or motions for the Planning Commission?
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Ms. Jaco?
Ms. Savelwater?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. Next item, staff reports and other business. Mr. Blomley?
No, sir, I have none.
All right, we are adjourned.